welcome to the live stream. This is Live Irish Myths. I am your host, Anthony Murphy. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. It is 8 p.m. Irish time. I hope wherever you are in the world that you're keeping safe and well and that you're in good form. Tonight we are continuing our epic read through P.W. Joyce's A Social History of Ancient Ireland. We're picking up where we left off last week. This is episode number 293. We've been talking about religion and learning in early Ireland, and in particular the church and its structures, and we're continuing on that theme tonight. If you're watching this back and you're going, what has this got to do with mythology? Well, that might be a valid question, except for, as we well know, the Christian monks had a huge influence in basically saving Irish mythology because they were the ones who wrote most of it down. Now, yes, they did interfere with it, but as we've said on many occasions, it's quite a complex and difficult task to disentangle what is original from what has been changed to suit the ecclesiastical tastes of the scribes. Anyway, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, please do join in the chat. Let us have your comments and questions. I will say hello to all of you momentarily. Don't forget that if you want to support Mythical Ireland, one of the ways that you can do it is to become a patron over on patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. That address is scrolling constantly along the bottom of the screen throughout the episode and all of our episodes. And if you're going to become a patron, I would advise joining at the Stone Age level or above at the least in order to enjoy the greatest value for money, as it were. I think the Bronze Age level in particular, which is $10 a month, is very good value. Good news on the publications front. Hot on the heels of the very recent publication of Fornox, Archaeology, Astronomy and Mythology, the third in the Mythical Ireland monograph series. Apart from the fact that that is selling very well and may have to be reprinted before Christmas, you may know that I recently announced the reissuing in a new edition of my novella, Land of the Ever-Living Ones. Thank you to all of you who have pre-ordered it so far. I got word from the printers today that I'll be collecting that from them on Friday. So if you've pre-ordered it, your signed copy will be out in the post. If not, probably not on Saturday. The post office is only open in the morning on Saturday, probably on Monday. So if you've pre-ordered it, or if you intend to pre-order it, your pre-orders, of course, will be prioritized as the first batch to be sent out. I've just shared the link there on Facebook and YouTube as to where you can order it online. Looking forward to getting that into my hands. And yeah, I'll keep you posted, but keep a close eye out on the Mythical Ireland social media for further publishing announcements, hopefully between now and Christmas. Also, don't forget that the 2025 Mythical Ireland calendar is completely designed and in a print-ready state. I haven't sent it to print yet, and will do so shortly. Again, if you've pre-ordered it, thank you very much, especially those of you, well, not everybody who has ordered it, thank you. But some of you have ordered several copies. And just in case you haven't done already and you would like to get your hands on a copy, I'm sharing the link where you can pre-order it. I did announce on social media during the past week or so that I was swapping out one of the images, and that is because of that lovely nighttime capture of Fornox that I caught last week. Now, I have this issue every week, and I do it regularly. So if you give me one moment, I want to show you that image. Yes, so this will just take me a moment. Apologies for that. Okay, now how do I share that? Very easily, Anthony. Share screen and then pick the screen or the tab or the window that you want to share. Right, that's not working right there at the moment. Screen 2, there we go. So, this is the image. A lot of you, if you follow Mythical Ireland on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter or X, if you prefer to call it, as it's known these days, will this display properly? I don't know why that's blinking, but that is the nighttime photo of the Fornox one passage tomb, the one about which my recent book was published. And a photo that I said earlier in the week had taken me 20 years to capture because I had never been at Fornox on a clear night under the stars with my camera. So that's that one ticked off, as it were. And as I say, that's going to be included as one of the 14 images in the 2025 Mythical Ireland calendar. There's one image for each month. Can I show you last year's calendar? Do I have a copy immediately to hand? It seems that I don't. So there's the front cover, of course, one image for each month, and there is an image on the inside cover as well. So 14 in total, including that. I hope you agree. Very nice capture of Fornox at night under the stars. So without further ado, I will say hello to all of the Mythflix Tua, as we call the viewers of Live Irish Myths, who have gathered to watch this evening's episode. First to comment tonight, quite unsurprisingly, is Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, who is in Dallas, or is in Texas. I'm not sure if it's Dallas you're in, Elaine. You're not too far away from Dallas, I'm sure, but you're certainly in Texas. And it's 30 Celsius there, or 86 Fahrenheit at the moment. Still warm, but better, more manageable. And as I always do, there's a temperature comparison that I do every week. What is the current temperature right now in Dublin Airport, which is about 20 miles down the road, maybe a little bit more? It is 11 Celsius. A cool evening here, a cool autumnal evening. Johnny Wilson, he's definitely in Dallas, Texas, and he's saying a very big hello to us and a very big hello all the way back to you, Johnny, and to Elaine, and of course all of our viewers in the Lone Star State. Wayne Bird is saying, hello, Anthony, hope everyone is well and keeping safe. Hopefully last night went well and you participated in a few refreshments. Yeah, so the reason I was unable to live stream as I would usually do yesterday, because you know the live stream is usually on a Monday, was because myself and some colleagues were attending the Business to Arts Awards 2024, which were held in the National Concert Hall. So Love Drogheda Bids and Drogheda Arts Centre were nominated for the Jim McNaughton Tile Style Perpetual Award for Best Commissioning Practice, along with ESB and Dublin Dance Festival for Kindred, and Fáilte Ireland and Cork City Council for Island City Cork's Urban Sculpture Trail. We did not win the award. That didn't matter much. We were delighted that it had been nominated. And if you're wondering what my involvement was, those of you who live in Drogheda or who have been to my home city here in Drogheda will know that there's a mythological murals trail. And my involvement in that was to compile the stories and to basically decide, to help decide which mythological characters and scenes and episodes were going to be represented in those murals. And delighted that that project has been a tremendous success in terms of bringing mythology back to the people, and especially bringing mythology that is very closely associated with the Drogheda and Boyne Valley and immediate area back to the homeland. So we didn't win, but we were told last night that it was the first time that a Drogheda project had been nominated for the awards. So a lovely evening in the National Concert Hall. I had my suit on. You might have seen the picture. I shared it on Facebook. And there there was wine and canapes enjoyed. Well, certainly on my behalf, because I wasn't driving, thankfully. I got a lift, but delighted to be involved with Love Drogheda Bids and Drogheda Arts Centre in that project, and watch this space because it ain't finished yet. That's all I'll say about that. Tuesday Thompson is saying, Happy Mythology Monday on a Tuesday. This warrants tacos to celebrate. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Happy Mythology Tuesday to you, Tuesday. Yes, indeed. An unusual, well, not that unusual. We've done some Tuesday live streams when I'm unable to do so on a Monday. But it's, you know, what's great about switching the evening is that quite often when we live stream on a Tuesday or another day of the week, some people who aren't able to make it on Monday turn up on the Tuesday, which is great. Desiree Riley is in the house. Hello to all the Tua. Me and Amadeus are happy to be tuning in. Brilliant stuff. And hello to Amadeus. Desiree, I hope you're in good form. The doggos were fed. They've both been out for the old toilet break. So, you know, maybe, who knows, they'll be quiet throughout the broadcast, but I doubt it, you know. We'll hear them before too long. Mary Rouse, is it? Is saying from hi from Indianapolis in Indiana. Well, a very good afternoon to you, Mary. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. Hope you're in good form. I'm not sure if we've seen you before, so I'm saying hello and welcome. If this is your first time, I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you enjoy the live stream, and most of all, I hope you enjoy the friendship and the atmosphere and the welcome that you will undoubtedly get from all of the other viewers. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe, is in Colorado. Hope all is well for my tour. Well, yes, indeed, Joe, and I hope that we can say the same for you also. And an interesting lineup last week. Hope that you all had a wonderful time. Lily Shambles says, good evening. I hope all are well. And your hangover isn't too bad, Anthony. Actually, I was a bit hungover this morning. I'll be brutally honest with you. I had a few glasses of vino. I was kind of just, you know, letting the hair down for the evening. And that's funny because you may have noticed since last time I got the haircut yesterday, especially for the event. So I'm well shorn. Or is it sheared? I think shorn is the word, you know. I feel like a sheep whose woolly coat has been shaved off. Dankness. Is this about how the Catholic Church was stolen from the Church of Iesa? No, it's not. But if you hang around, you'll find out what it is about. Anne Scott Doherty's in the house. She is saying greetings to all. Hello, Anne. And we will say hello to Bill as well, if he's there in the background, hovering around. Hope you're both in good form. Anne McCallum, who was very excited about joining us, having said so on Facebook. Hello, Antone and all the mighty too. I hope everyone's in good form and enjoying the remaining days of summer. We had some breezy, cooler weather over the weekend. 13 Celsius this morning, but now a sunny 25. Mighty congratulations, Anthony. Hope you had a wonderfully enjoyable, well-deserved award celebration yesterday. Well done, you. Well, thank you, Anne. We did. We had a nice evening, put it that way. And I didn't think about any of you once. That's how good a time I had. Peter Kennedy is saying hello from Ballybrigeen, just back from walking the mutts. And thank you for the video of the Ladywell, Peter. Very interesting. And this is the sort of stuff I love to see on the Mythical Ireland community on Facebook. And just on the off chance that I know we've one or two new viewers this evening. If you're not on, if you haven't been on the Mythical Ireland community, I'm going to share a link there where you can go there and join. But I love to see people sharing pictures and videos of monuments and sacred sites in their area. It's fabulous. So thank you for that, Peter. I look forward to seeing more from your camera phone. Who else have we got? Sorry. Okay, I've lost my place in the comments. Here we go. Apple O'Day is saying hello from Vancouver in British Columbia. A very good afternoon to you. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's just after midday there. A very good afternoon to you too, Apple. Is that an apple a day keeps the doctor away or something like that? And I hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to the live stream. I hope you enjoy the episode. Brendan Byrne is saying, what a beautiful end to the evening. Yeah, so we had a bit of a red sky, and then we had a rainbow just as the sun was going down. So it was beautiful here. But the sun has gone down. As I said last week or the week before, we're getting to that time of year where the entirety of the live streams will be done while it's dark outside. Summer is ending as we speak, you know. Just wondering, before I order, does it go into the alignments with Orion's belt, Pleiades, and the ley lines? Good suggestion for YouTube for once. Well, I'm not sure if you're talking about, but my book, Island of the Setting Sun, I think is the one that you'll be most interested in if you're interested in Orion and stellar alignments and ley lines from the point of view of long distance alignments of ancient sites. So I'm just pasting a link in there to take you to the page where you can order that if you're interested. And if you're ordering a copy of Island of the Setting Sun, or indeed any of my books from the Mythical Ireland website, of course, I will personally sign them for you. Rex Fortenberry is saying, greetings, mighty Tua, getting ready for a bit of blow from Hurricane Francine here. Woo! Well, I hope that's not too bad. Certainly, we would hope that you stay safe and that you're nicely sheltered from it all, Rex, and that it passes fairly quickly. Linda Bird is in Maryland. It's a beautiful Bits and Bridles horse tack free photo classifieds and tack shop directory. So I don't like that feature of Facebook where you're typing a comment and you type something that's either a page that you follow or somebody who's a friend of yours, and it tries to autofill, which is clearly what has happened there, Linda. But a very good afternoon to you. It's lovely to see you again. And it's been, how long has it been since we did the tour? Is it a couple of months now? Steve P, the 14 lost parts of Osiris. Yes, indeed. I have a big interest in dismemberment mythology. Those of you who've been watching my live streams over the past 4 years and read some of my books will know that there's a couple of dismemberment myths here in the Boyne Valley. Yes, Osiris, indeed. My family's getting ready for the hurricane too, says Desiree. Wasn't sure if you would make it in today with the storm prep. Yeah, stay safe. That's the main thing. Michael Pike is in the house. Greetings, Anthony and the Mighty Tua. Great pictures as usual for the 2025 calendar. Thanks, Michael. And indeed for the pre-order. And yeah, I'm hoping a calendar is ready and designed earlier than usual. I began working on it actually in early summer. And it's completely ready to go to print. But I want to get Land of the Ever Living one sorted first. So it should be going to print in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It usually gets printed in the first couple of weeks of October. So, you know, we're only a month away from that anyway. So all going well. Pardon me, it'll be printed a little bit earlier than usual. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hi, Anthony. Hi to a dark nights creeping in. Yes, indeed. That's exactly what's happening. Beautiful photography, as always, says Ali. Thank you. Hello from Tucson, where it's 40 Celsius this week. Oh, my God. What? Take 29 off that, and you have the temperature right now here in the Boyne Valley. A night for the fire in a good pub with Anthony and the Tua telling stories with a good dram and remembering our past. Yeah, so keep an eye out on that. I haven't moved that on, but the intention for the 300th episode, which is in about 7 weeks' time, around Samhain, would be to book a venue and to have a live Irish Myths. So to have to stream, to have the camera and the stream, you know, for the remote viewers, but also to have some of the Tua live in the room. And yeah, if we can think of a venue that we could all get to without too much difficulty, that would be lovely and a great way to celebrate episode number 300. Pádraig Byrne is saying, evening all from Mount Mellick in County Laois. A very good evening to you, Pádraig. Hope you're in good form and the weather isn't too soft over there. 322 Messenger is saying hello from Cornwall. A very good evening to you, and I hope all is well in southwestern England, where I think you get somewhat of a continental climate. It's generally a bit better weather-wise than it is in Ireland. Congratulations on the nomination. The murals are fabulous. Thank you, Burr. I'm Delighted, as I say, and proud to have been involved in that project. And as I say, watch this space because it ain't over yet. Adina Sparks is quietly coming back in after walking the dogs. Hope everyone's well. All in good form here, Adina. And well, if the doggos are looked after, everyone's happy. You know what I mean? And now you can relax and sit and watch the episode. Alan Hoskins says, evening, everyone from Ballina, Killaloe. Hope all well. All in good form here, Alan. And I hope we can say the same about you also. 11 nights here between 3 to 6 coming for the rest of the week. Kids are going to be so chuffed that I'm going to have to bring some plants in to try and save them. It's getting cold. Getting cold. Happy birthday, Alan Hoskins. Really? Is it your birthday today, Alan? I did not know that. Happy birthday to our Alan. I hope you're having a lovely day. And, you know, everybody all together after 3, 1, no, after 2, Anthony. 1, 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy birthday to you. And at no extra cost. At this point, the viewership has suddenly plummeted. Everybody is leaving. Not because it's Alan's birthday, because I'm singing. Anne McCallum also wishing Alan a happy birthday, as is Elaine Dentling and Felder. Brilliant stuff. Nora Gaffney O'Connor says, GAE of Galair, how's the girlies after their night out with the chips, etc. last Monday? Great fun and frolics. I told you, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall. Yeah, I'd say that was great fun altogether. Mavanway Millward is in the house saying, good evening all. I'm falling asleep a bit, but all ears. I think it's this damp, cold weather. I hope you had a nice glass of champagne and a grand time at the awards last night, and I certainly did. And we were well entertained. And it was no champagne for me, just white wine. But, you know, I mean, I was happy out, you know. Actually, I'm just in from a dog walk too, says the birthday boy, Alan. There's a sub-theme here already this evening. Yeah, we tend to find that when one person says something, a load of people are doing the same thing. It's so funny, you know. Samantha Healy is here. She says, hello, Anthony, Tom, and all the two. I didn't see Tom King yet. Is he late? Will I have to get the red book out? Samantha, I hope you're in good form. Richard Burgess is saying, it's a beautiful day here in New York, especially because your 3 monographs arrived a few minutes ago. Woohoo! Hello, everyone. Well, enjoy that read. The Finn monograph will be a quick read. The Bowen monograph will be a longer read, and the Fornox might take you a couple of days, but enjoy it. And thank you, Richard, for buying and supporting my work, because without that, there would be no that one, Anthony. There would be no Mythical Ireland, or at least there might be a Mythical Ireland, but there wouldn't be too many updates. Wouldn't be too much output, as it were. Oh no, the red book is already out. Hi, everyone, says Barbara Murphy. Hello, Barbara. Hope you're in good form. End of May, says Linda. Wow. Yes, indeed. Sorry, the photo of Fornox. What a beautiful thing on a calm, mild, clear night to stand at Fornox with not a sinner around. And all the time I was there, no car passed on the road outside. All on my own, under the stars, lighting the monument, taking photographs. I was in my element. Auntie Joe is saying to Barbara, shh, he might not notice. Slide in here beside me. Glad you made it. Yeah, we're all glad you made it. As I've been saying for years, it's always a pleasure to welcome another Murphy into the Mythical Ireland Library. We are good. It was such fun, a fun treat to hang out. The Colorado 6 had a blast. Can't wait for our next meetup. I'm just saying, Dublin to Denver, Aer Lingus doing direct flights. Not today. It's been peeing it down in Cornwall. We had a reasonably nice day, but it did do a couple of very brief showers. Barbara is back in hot Tucson. Can you please send me some of your cool wet weather our way? Today is supposed to be 103 Fahrenheit. And yes, we get an F for weather, especially hard after high altitude Colorado. Yeah, what can I say? The only thing is you can see the sun retreating southwards, so it's bound to cool down before too long, you know. Happy birthday, Anne. Oh, hang on. Who else's birthday is it? Joe Butler, please tell us who else's birthday is today. Oh, did I miss? Oh, Anne Scott Doherty. No way. Ah, that's unbelievable. So both Alan and Anne, excuse me. I hope I don't get the hiccups, are celebrating their birthday today. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anne Scott Doherty. Happy birthday to you. Do you like that little flourish on the end? Wasn't it class? I should have been a professional singer. Well, I mean, I should have been a singer. I'd never get paid. I'd probably get rotten fruit thrown at me. But, you know, God loves a trier, apparently. So happy birthday to our birthday people. Heather Marie Leaning is wishing them both a happy birthday. You're such a crooner. Those dulcet tones. Why, thank you, Nora. I'll give you that tenor later. Yeah, lots of people wishing happy birthday to the birthday folks, which is brilliant. Anne and Alan. Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, everyone. Hello, Barb. A very good afternoon / evening / night / morning to you. I arrived late, but on the bright side of your viewership. On the bright side, your viewership actually went up. Wow. And everybody's saying, you need to follow this live stream. This guy sings happy birthday to people. Very badly, it has to be said. Alan Hoskins is saying, thanks everyone for the birthday wishes and for the singing, Anthony. Oh, and it's Anne Scott Doherty's birthday too. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, extra celebrations. Where are we having the party? Let's get a big cake. Can somebody bake a cake in the next 10 minutes? Or a get together in Ireland? I'm amenable to such things, Mavanwi, you know. Steve Martinson is wishing the in Irish Os Gaeilge lá breithe honna duit to the birthday birthday people doesn't sound too good. It sounds a bit impersonal. The birthday babies. Not quite anymore. Whoa, you should be on Ireland's Got Talent. Yeah, we don't have such a show because Ireland doesn't have any talent, if I'm anything to go by. Steve Martinson has what looks like quite a nice blessing or greeting. May your thoughts be as glad as the shamrocks. May your heart be as light as a song. May each day bring you bright, happy hours that stay with you all the year long. May you live a long life full of gladness and health, with a pocket full of gold as the least of your wealth. May the dreams you hold dearest be those which come true. May the kindness you spread keep returning to you. May peace and plenty bless your world with a joy that long endures, and may all life's passing seasons bring the best to you and yours. May your heart be warm and happy with the lilt of Irish laughter every day in every way, and forever and ever after. Lovely stuff, Steve. Brilliant. Bula bus, folks. I don't know where that comes from. I don't think I've seen that before, but that's lovely. Did you pen that yourself? Very, very nice. So, I was told, says Brendan Byrne, I had the face of a singer. Unfortunately, a sewing machine. A singer sewing machine. I haven't seen our Tom. Is he here? He doesn't appear to be. I'm sure he'll turn up before too long. And I'm sure the reason he's not here is because he's doing something very important. I know. You're saying what could be more important than live Irish myths? I know. I agree. Anyway. Yes, apparently singing causes my throat to go dry. Steve Martinson being praised for that lovely blessing. Nora Gaffney is replying to Mavanwi saying Ireland's got average talent. Yeah, well, in my case, it's very average. So we're continuing in the section about religion, learning, and art. So recently we've been talking about such things as early monasteries and bells and wells, and we were talking previously about the monastic lish and the round towers and the early churches, and a lot of it. We've covered a lot of ground, but today we're continuing. And this section of Religion, Learning and Art is about revenues and means of support. Interesting thing. Yeah. Because, of course, the church, still to this day, I'm talking about the Catholic Church in Ireland, is funded by its parishioners. The mass goers basically put money into a basket at mass, and that helps to pay the heating and the lighting and for food for the priests. And then there's something else called priests' dues, which are DUES, which is money. It's an envelope collection basically for the parish. Yes, I probably won't get too deep into that in case we wade into controversy, but I suppose there'd be lots of people who'd be of the opinion that it's a good thing that the church is self-funding, as it were. Sorry, I'm just reaching here for something that's been missing for a while that I just spotted on the desk. Yes, it's one of the SD cards out of my camera. Yeah, I'm glad they don't rely on state support. Just put it that way. Anyway, let's get on with it. Fees and dues. The clergy derived their support from several sources. One of the chief of these consisted of dues paid for the performance of various religious functions, in regard to which the Brehon law lays down the reciprocal obligations of clergy and laity in this manner. The right of a church from the people is 1. Tithes, 2. First fruits, i.e. the first of the gathering of every new produce, and every first calf and every first lamb that is brought forth in the year. Wow. Just to clarify, they don't do that today. They don't look for the first calf and the first lamb from the farmers. 3. Firstlings, i.e. the first son born after marriage, who accordingly was to enter religion, and the firstborn male of all milk-giving animals. Wow. On the other hand, the rights of the people from the clergy were, quote, baptism and communion and requiem of the soul, unquote. That is to say, spiritual ministration in general. Fees are not mentioned here, but they were always paid for the performance of religious rites by those who were able to pay, of which many examples might be cited from ecclesiastical literature. Certain fixed payments were expected from every householder of the tribe to the abbot of the local monastery or to the bishop of the tribe. This payment was called quiche or coin, C-I for the S or C-A for the I-N, i.e. rent or tribute. And the bishop or abbot often collected it by making a courch or a circuit or visitation through the tribe or district over which he had spiritual jurisdiction. Man cannot live on bread alone and all of that, These courts, C-U-A-I-R-T-S, that's an Irish word, were the forerunners of the ecclesiastical visitations of the archbishops and bishops of later times. They were practiced from very early times, for the 8th century commentator on the Epistle of St. Paul to the Ephesians, 1:20, speaks of a courch parca diocesan visitation, visitation, an illustration which, under the circumstances, the writer must have taken from his home in Ireland, for there is no mention of it in the epistle. He's taken the epistle. Sorry. In the Tribes and Customs of High Manny, edited by O'Donovan, is a very interesting statement of the arrangements for church fees and tributes in the ancient territory of High Manny, the O'Kelly's country, in Galway, as they existed in the 14th century, which we may conclude were handed down with little change from much older times. To the church of Cama, west of the Shannon, near Athlone, which was dedicated to St. Bridget, belonged the baptismal fees of the whole of the O'Kellys, so that whether the child was brought to that church or to any other to be baptized, or whoever performed the actual baptism, the Covarba or successor of St. Bridget, i.e., the abbess of Cama Nunnery and Church, quote, has the power of collecting the baptismal penny, pingin boshti, from these tribes, unquote, of which she kept 1/3 for her own establishment and gave the other 2/3 to the churches in the neighbourhood, also dedicated to St. Bridget. There's Jacqueline Kelly Adams. Speaking of, Kellys and O'Kellys, yes, you're here at the right moment, definitely, Jacqueline, and speaking about the family line. Another church of the district got, in like manner, the Shkravel Ongaha. Sorry, that would be Leneted, wouldn't it? Yes, the Shkravel Ongtha, the scrapple of anointing, i.e., administrating extreme unction. The burial fees belonged to the great monastery of Clonmacnoise, where the chiefs of the O'Kellys were buried, and so of other fees. In the same document, certain tributes are assigned to churches, irrespective of the performance of any religious rites. For example, the Church of St. Grelon received the firstling pig, lamb, and foal, all over High Many, a very important addition to the resources of the monastery and church. Many cases of such tributes to other churches, both here and elsewhere throughout Ireland, might be cited. Sometimes exceptional dues were granted to a church or monastery under special circumstances or for special spiritual services. Special spiritual services, what would they be? In the life of Saint Minion, the founder of Kilmainham near Dublin, it is told how that saint once preached a sermon on the Day of Judgment before Dermot, King of Ireland, who reigned AD 544 to 565, which so powerfully impressed the king that he granted to Minion and his successors in the abbotship, for the support of the monastery, quote, a scrapple on every nose, i.e., from every head of the household, an ounce of gold for every chieftain's daughter that took a husband, or in place of that, the bride's wedding dress, if the chief's steward so chose, and the materials for, in other words, the ornamental parts of, a crozier from the tribute received by the king from the sea. From oversea, should I say. Unquote. Wow. Rex is saying, special services, exorcism, maybe? Yeah, I'm wondering what all that means. The mention in the offering of the bride's wedding dress in this record points to another occasional, though important, source of income. The state dress worn for the first and last time by a king at great ceremonials was, in some cases, handed over to the bishop or abbot who officiated. Thus, the horse and robes used by O'Connor on the occasion of his inauguration as King of Connacht, quote, became the property or the corb or successor, of the corb or successor of Saint Dachona, unquote, i.e., the abbot for the first time being of the monastery of Asmacnerk, now Asselin near Boyle in Roscommon, who officiated at the ceremony. Full stop. Many other examples of the presentation by Irish kings and chiefs of ornamental dresses to ecclesiastics might be cited, and the same practice prevailed in England and other countries. It is to be presumed that these robes were taken to pieces and converted into vestments or altar decorations. I'm into alterations myself, yeah. This section is about land. The land attached to monasteries, which, as we have seen, was tilled by the monks, formed the staple support of the establishment. The monastic lands were sometimes increased by special grants from kings or chiefs, in addition to that given at the foundation. In the year 645, Dermot, son of Aed Sláine, subsequently King of Ireland, having won a victory which he attributed to the prayers of the monks of Clonmacnoise, made a grant to the monastery of the land of Tuam Nirk, now called Lamanahan, Kings County, as Fode for Altor, or Altar Sod. Sometimes part of the land belonging to a monastery was let to tenants, and accordingly we find from the Brehon law that it was quite usual for monasteries to have both sair stock and dare stock tenants, like the lay chiefs. Now we talk about tithes. In the memorable council held at Kells under the presidency of Cardinal Paparo in 1152, and of course that's the synod that was known as the Synod of Kells Mellifont, because part of it was officiated by Kells and some of it was held at Mellifont Abbey, which had only just been founded a decade previously. It was deemed that tithes should be paid, and again in the Council of Cashel, held 20 years later, one of the canons was, quote, that all good Christians do pay the tithes of beasts, corn, and other produce to the church of the parish in which they live, unquote. But the custom had existed in Ireland, at least nominally, long before this time. For in several parts of the Seanachas Mór, we find it prescribed. Of course, the Seanachas Mór is the great collection of early Irish law. We find it prescribed as a duty to pay tithes, as well as alms and first fruits to the church. So the 12th century was a time of great reform of the church. It became episcopal, and rather than the monasteries being the centres of power, the older Columban monasteries, if you will, and the power being vested mainly in locally based abbots and locally based bishops. After the Synod of Rathbrassel and the Synod of Kells Mellifont, the church was reformed, and the bishop of the diocese held ultimate power. But what he's saying here is that the practice of the tithes had existed long before that 12th century reformation of the church. But notwithstanding these decrees, it is certain that tithes were not paid very generally or very regularly until after the Anglo-Norman invasion in 1172. So while the tithes were paid previous to the 12th century reform, they weren't paid generally or regularly. So it might have been what we call in Ireland a bit hit and miss, you know. Anne McCallum says, full stop. That's great. Love that. Much better than the modern period. Yeah, full stop or full point. Hello all from sunny Connecticut. Just finished at the market and signing in now. Just a wee bit late, says Susan Scott. Susan, welcome. Better late than never, as they say. A wizard is never late. What about a wizardess? Voluntary offerings. Besides all the preceding sources of income, there were voluntary offerings. Almost all persons who could afford it, when they visited a monastery, left something of value. In early times, the offerings, like all other payments, were in ounces of gold and silver or in kind. And we find a great variety of articles mentioned in the tripartite life. That's the tripartite life of St. Patrick, just in case you're wondering, and other lives of the saints. A cauldron, ladies' ornaments. Okay, just to be specific here, we're not talking about lingerie. Chariot horses, the grazing of so many cows, rich ornamental dresses, etc. The offerings were often large and generous. A cauldron, I think that's brilliant, you know. Yes, if you were a wealthy individual, perhaps you could make contributions to your local church. You know, in modern day times, perhaps a wealthy benefactor could give a check or some cash. But no, in medieval times, apparently you could donate a cauldron. Fascinating. The offerings were often large and generous. When King Brian Boru visited Armagh as he made his royal circuit through Ireland in 1004, a decade before he was killed at the Battle of Clontarf, by the way, he laid an offering of 20 ounces of gold on the great altar, equivalent to £1,000 or £1,500 of our money. Remember, this was published back in 1903, and I presume that sort of sum would be the equivalent of maybe 10 or 20,000 euros today. I'm not sure, maybe more. It was a lot of, actually maybe more, maybe 50,000. It was a lot of money. But wow, who'd have thought the church could be bought off? Such an alien notion, right? Like, churches never took money off people, didn't they not? They wouldn't be corrupt like that. Like, you know what I mean? Kings and churches, politics and religion, getting into bed together, church and state and all that. Monica Regley is saying, hi everybody from Bonnie, Scotland. Well, a very good evening to you, Monica, who is in Stirling. Brilliant stuff. And thank you for joining us from Scotland. Can't beat a cauldron, says Mavanwi. Don't think we need Tom's Forge tonight. The red book is on fire. You'll notice I actually didn't produce it tonight. There were so many latecomers. Just, you know, my hand would be falling off from all the writing, you know. Donate a dress to the church. I've got lost, methinks. Yeah, I know. So you could donate a dress or a cauldron. Wow, fascinating stuff. So this is section 8, various features of the ancient Irish church. Bellica, sorry, that is not what that says. It's just the way it's facsimile reprint. Apologies. Just scrap that part. You did not hear me a few moments ago. We're going to start again. I read the word as Belica, and then I studied it closely, and I see that it says relics, or Elics. Relics and loricas. It was the custom for the most distinguished of the Irish saints and heads of the great universities to present to their disciples tokens of friendship and esteem, which the disciples reverently preserved by depositing them in churches founded by themselves. This custom is well set forth in a passage in the Irish life of St. Finian of Clonard. Quote, the saints of Ireland came from every point to learn wisdom with him, so that there were 3,000 saints along with him. Wow. Are there any lay people at this point, you're thinking? There's so many saints, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, as it were. And of them, as the learned know, he chose the 12 high bishops of Ireland. They're not the ones that were smoking spliffs, just to clarify. And no one of these 3,000 went from him without a crozier or a gospel or some other well-known token. And round these reliquaries, they built their churches and their monasteries afterwards. Unquote. In the tripartite life, we are told that St. Patrick spent 7 years preaching in Connacht. Quote, and he left in the land of Connacht 50 bells and 50 chalices and 50 altar cloths made from Debs or Prom's dresses, each of them in his church, unquote. Back in the day, I believe saint just meant a good Christian. I think so. I don't think we're talking about saints. Who told them they were saints? Yes, how do you qualify? Like, you know, Not getting my cauldron. No way, mate, says Lily. um, check out I think that says Cadfael TV series starring Derek Jacobi. Derek Jacobi appeared in Gladiator, didn't he? As a crime solving monk. It's a great insight into the church and their practices of receiving donations. Wealthy people were often encouraged to donate their wealth to the church. Yes, of course. Thank you, Peter. Indeed, they were. And probably told quietly, if not publicly, well, if you give us all your wealth, we'll pretty much guarantee you straight to heaven when you die. And we'll bury you in the floor of the church. Many individual examples of this custom might be cited in connection with St. Patrick and other saints. In like manner, the stone beds on which the saints slept and on which they died were preserved with the utmost veneration, and sometimes churches were built over them. It's no wonder they died on them. If you sleep on a stone, that's not going to be very good for you, is it? One of the churches in Clonmacnoise enshrining St. Kieran's stone bed was long known by the name of Imje Kieran, Kieran's bed. Fascinating. I need me cauldron for me spuds, says Lily. Well, exactly, and your turnips, and your gravy. According to a 12th century text, says Mavanwe, there are 20,000 saints buried on Inish Enley, Bardsey Island. So probably just Christians, and probably a bit of an exaggeration, but you never know. Yeah. Saints. Interesting. Book People Unite. In the Tripartite Life and elsewhere, we often find it stated that St. Patrick wrote the Eibgitcher, or alphabet, for those disciples whom he left in charge of churches. The Irish phrase is Ro Scriv Eibgitcher, from the Latin equivalent often found in the Latin memoirs, Scripsit Elementa. This Eibgitcher was a simple compendium, the elements, as the Latin gives it, of the Christian doctrine to be used in teaching the people. A good example of the application of the word appears in the name of a little devotional book attributed to Coman or Kevin, the son of Bionne Arige, which is called Ivgitcher. Is it Ivgitcher or Ivgitcher? I will say for the moment, in case I'm confused about the lenition, which I am. Ivgitcher in Crevage, the alphabet of piety. The 8th century Irish glossator on Paul to the Hebrews, V12, explains Ivgitcher Crave as Ruda or Ruda Documenta Fideli, i.e., simple or rough and ready lessons of the faith. These little books were preserved with the utmost reverence, but not one of them has survived to our time. Geraldus Cambrensis, the famous Gerald of Wales, whom we have mentioned far too many times, notices the reverence paid in Ireland as well as in Scotland and Wales to articles that had belonged to saints of the times of old, instancing specially bells and croziers. He mentions also the custom of swearing on them, and says that the people had much more regard for oaths sworn on those or these than on the Gospels. Wow. He says also that those who had sworn falsely on them were often chastised severely by some great calamity. His statement about the custom of swearing on relics is fully corroborated by the native records, a custom which we know prevailed in other countries and continued to prevail in Ireland to a period within living memory. Articles or relics of any kind that had belonged to the Irish saints were often used as loricas, protectors or preservatives against danger of every kind. St. Columcille once presented his cowl, in Irish cochal, Cochall, to Eid Mac Einmurach, King of Ireland, with a promise that as long as he wore it, he would not be slain. And accordingly, the king constantly brought it with him on his warlike expeditions. In the year 598, when St. Columcille was dead, Eid marched southwards and encountered Brandulf, King of Leinster, at Dunbollag in Wicklow. Just as the battle was beginning, he ordered his gilla or attendant to bring him the cowl. "That cowl," replied the gilla, "we have left behind us in the palace of Aileach in the north." Oh dear. And of course, that would be Grianán of Aileach in the county of Donegal, a long way to the north from Wicklow. "Alas," said the king, "then it is all the more likely I shall be slain by the Leinstermen," unquote. And he was slain, and his army routed by Brandulf in the battle that ensued. So, lesson, folks. Don't leave your cloak behind. In like manner, the hymns composed by or in honour of the ancient saints were used as loricas in times of danger, chief among which may be mentioned the Féad Féada, or Deer's Cry, which was the hymn of St. Patrick and his which was the hymn St. Patrick and his companions chanted on their way to Tara, Easter Eve, 433 AD. And I am fascinated by this, of course. And the Aura Columcille, the panegyric composed in praise of Columcille during his lifetime by the poet Dallan Forgall or Yochi Egish. Both of these hymns, which are in Irish, are still extant and have been published. So just maybe finish this paragraph and then just go back to the Féad Féada. The Latin hymn composed by St. Shachnal or Secundius in honour of St. Patrick is preserved in the Book of Hymns. The legend is that Patrick promised Shachnal that anyone singing the last three stanzas of it at lying and rising would go to heaven. Féach's hymn in Irish in honour of St. Patrick is also a lorica. So that was actually one of the prayers that would have been said by Irish children in my own lifetime. You probably know that I was born into Catholicism and raised in certainly in the first decade or so of my life as a Catholic. So that Féad Féada would also be known. It's called the Deer's Cry, but it's also the hymn or the prayer that is called Patrick's Breastplate. You know those very familiar lines, Christ be before me, Christ be behind me, and all of that, which is how it ends actually. Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ to my right, Christ to my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit down, etc., etc., etc. Now, here's the fascinating thing. That Féad Féada, that was used by Patrick. Patrick uttered that prayer because after the confrontation between Patrick and his companions, having lit the Paschal fire on Easter Vigil, 432 or 433 AD, the annals differ as to exactly which year it was. There was a confrontation where King Laoghaire MacNeill of Tara, the High King of Ireland, had sent his druids and warriors to Slane to find out who had lit the fire and to kill them, because it was punishable by death to light the sacred fire before the king had first done so. And after a confrontation, and some of the druids of Laoghaire were converted and others were killed, Laoghaire let on basically that he was going to convert to Christianity, and he invited Patrick to come to Tara. Of course, Patrick suspected that the king's motives were somewhat underhanded and less than honest. And fearing the worst, he set out from Slane with his companions along the route to Tara. But in doing so, he uttered this Deer's Cry, or the Féad Féada, And Patrick and his companions appeared to all others to be a herd of deer walking along through the forests and along the pathways between Slane and Tara, and managed to get to Tara safely. The end result of that, and I've spoken about this recently, and I also published quite a long read article about it certainly for patrons. Is it on the website? Don't say it is, Anthony, just in case it isn't. I can check later. But at the end of it all, that God apparently was so indignant about how Patrick had been treated by the pagans, and the attempt on his life, or at least the intention to kill him, and the confrontation, that he made 12,000 of the inhabitants of Tara drop dead in one day. But fascinatingly, there is, in the tradition of the Tuatha De Danann, the mythology of the ancient pre-Christian pantheon of deities, the tradition that Manannán mac Lir, who seems to have been very much a sea deity of the Tuatha De Danann, that he made a cloak of invisibility for his fellow Tuatha De Danann deities, which enabled them to come out from the she-mounds into the mortal world without being seen by mortal eyes. So they wore the faith Feada when they did not want to be seen. So it looks like in the tripartite life that this description of Patrick uttering a prayer called the faith Feada, and although he doesn't become invisible, the threat is completely removed, because Patrick and his companions are completely transformed. They're transformed into animals. But it looks like that's based on a much older pre-Christian, or, if you will, I don't use that word myself, but pagan idea. And even the idea that they, the saint and his companions, I think at this stage, at least one of them had been made a bishop, Urk. The idea that they transformed into animals is interesting, because we know that Tuatha De Danann could transform into animals. And of course, sometimes they did just that. Cian, a famous example, the father of Lu, transforming into a pig to hide himself among a herd of pigs on the plain of Muirhevna from the sons of Turin, Brian, and Jochorva, and who was the third brother? Was it Fiacra? There were three brothers. Somebody will know, hopefully, and prompt me in the comments. I am fascinated by this, because I have written previously, and that article is definitely on the website. I have written about the myths and legends of St. Patrick, some of which are clearly based on pre-Christian, or, if you were a pagan, mythology. So I'm going to share the link to that. Not sure if the cloak is mentioned in that. I don't think it is. I think that was in a more recent article that I wrote. But it's fascinating, because basically, regardless of what the church said about the pagans, and that they were all in darkness, and they were all, sinners, and they were all going to, they weren't going to enjoy life after death and all of the rest. A lot, or at least a certain number of the things that are written about the saints, seem to have been borrowed straight out of pre-Christian ideas. Several others of those Christian hymns used as road safeguards are preserved in our ancient books. St. Columbkill's Irish Protecting Hymn, which it is said he composed while travelling alone northwards over the hills after escaping from Tara, where he had been insulted, may be seen in the Irish Miscellany. And that's fascinating, because if he uttered a prayer travelling northwards from Tara, he may have been in the same area that Patrick was, because Slane is north of Tara, and Patrick and his companions would have been travelling south from Slane to Tara. So that's interesting. The ancient Irish introductory notice to this says, quote, "It will be a protection to any person who will repeat it going on a journey," unquote. Sometimes persons setting out on a journey wore a gospel, i.e., a copy of the whole or part of one of the four gospels, folded up tightly in a little case of leather or cloth. When McConlina was going away from Armagh, his tutor hung a gospel around his neck. This pious and pleasing practice has come down to our time. Thomas More, in affectionate words, recalls how his mother once, on occasion of his leaving home, hung a gospel round his neck, and many Roman Catholics now wear a gospel or a scapular round the neck, not only when on a journey, but constantly. A path protector, Irish Coimhde Conaire, protection of the Conaire or road, often called Shane Ura, the blessing of an hour, was also used in Ireland in pagan times, of which examples will be found in some of the works referred to at the bottom. I'm just going to read the footnote because it may be relevant to what I've just been saying about the Faith Féada. Some of the two need that cloak to avoid the red book, says Brendan. Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, they're invisible to me. I don't see them coming in late. But then some of them have a habit of announcing that, in fact, they are late, you know? Could you imagine a thief taking the leather sack around your neck only to find a gospel in it? Yes, indeed. These things might actually have had value, funnily enough. Bit of a pagan thing for Patrick. To do for Patrick, transforming. I would have thought it was frowned upon. Yeah, I know, right? Let me just read this for a second. Charms or ordinary prayers of all these various kinds are, according to Mr. Carmichael, still practiced in the Highlands and Western Islands of Scotland. Specimens of Christian road safeguards in Gaelic verse may be seen in his Karma Gaelica. Nay, they have preserved the very name Faith Féada in the form of Fa-Fi, F-A-Father-T-H hyphen F-I-T-H, and Fee-Fa, F-I-T-H hyphen F-A-Father-T-H, which they apply to a charm for rendering a person invisible, or making him appear in the shape of some other animal. I'm just taking a margin NB here. Nota bene. Just as the original Faith Féada, according to the legend, made St. Patrick and his disciples appear as deer on their way to Tara 1500 years ago. A description of the Highland Fa-Fi with a specimen is given in volume 2 of the same work. All memory of the Faith Féada has been lost in Ireland for centuries. On this subject, also see Moilena 37, Revue Celtique 9, page 459, Tripartite Life XIV, Moirath 75, Cambridge Evers 1, 2, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, very interesting. So that whole idea of the road, what does he call it? Road safeguards, or a path protector. I like that. I'm just taking a note here. Give me 1 second. I like that. But the Faith Féada here in the tripartite life spelt F-A-E-D. Now, where's the father? Excuse me for a second because I've lost it. Yeah, F-A-Father-E-D. But in, I believe, the mythology rendered F-E-Father-T-H, faith. Faith Féada. It's a corruption of the same idea, you know. Are you reading the footnotes there? Yes, indeed, I am, Mfanwe. Yeah, he's probably casting a spell. You're talking about me. Yes. Speaking of, I remember being in school, and I was very young. I think I was in what we call junior infants or senior infants, the first couple of years of school. And it was time for spelling, and letter of the day was the letter N. And the teacher said to me, she said, Anthony Murphy, can you give us a word beginning with the letter N that you're not very good at? I said, yes, miss. Spelling. We'll read a bit more. What time is it? 9:10. Oh, we've a little bit of time yet. Sunday is the next section. The Yellow Book of Lecan and the Lower Breck contain copies of a tract called Coin Downey, or the Law of Sunday, which it is said was originally brought from Rome in the 6th century by St. Connell of Inishkeen off the coast of Donegal. In this are laid down rules for the observance of the Sunday, which are very strict. It sets forth a long list of works not to be done on Sunday, among which are games of all kinds, buying and selling and compacts in general, the use of the bath. Sorry, you can't have a bath on a Sunday. Sewing, fishing, boating, grinding corn, cooking, splitting firewood, or clearing up the house. Wow, seriously? Apparently, you're not supposed to eat on a Sunday, or at least you can eat on a Sunday, but you have to cook it the previous day. Traveling, especially horse riding, was prohibited, with some necessary exceptions, such as going for a physician or a sick person, going to save a house from fire. Well, thank God for that. You know, don't travel on a Sunday, even if somebody's house is on fire, and you could put it out if if you weren't forbidden from doing so. Or the journey of a priest to attend a sick person who was in danger of dying before Monday morning. According to the same tract, Sunday was regarded as extending from Vespers on Saturday, that's Saturday evening prayers, isn't it? To sunrise on Monday morning. And in this particular, it is corroborated by several other authorities. These are all the things I like to do on a Sunday. Ride a horse, go fishing, and having a bath. Easter. We'll read a bit more. St. Patrick began the celebration of Easter, AD 433, by lighting a great fire on the hill of Slane on the eve of the festival, which was seen for miles all round, from which we may infer that this custom of lighting a fire in the open was followed generally during and after his time. From very early times, there was a difference between the East and the West as to the mode of calculating the time for Easter, so that it often happened that it was celebrated at different times at Rome and at Alexandria. The Roman method of computation, which was subsequently found not to be quite correct, was brought to Ireland by St. Patrick in 432 and was carried to Britain and Scotland by the Irish missionaries. Many years after St. Patrick's arrival in Ireland, Pope Hilary caused a more correct method to be adopted at Rome, which it was intended should be followed by all other Christian countries. Of course, this is the issue that was eventually resolved at the Synod of Whitby in 664, of which we've mentioned on many occasions on many live streams. But the Irish kept celebrating Easter in such a way as Easter Sunday could still land on Passover, but the Roman Church wanted to distance the Jewish origins of the celebration of Easter. So they decreed that it had to be calculated in such a way that it could never, Easter Sunday could never coincide with Passover. But the intransigent and perhaps a little bit insular Irish clerics continued to do it their way until 664. But from the difficulty of communicating with Rome in those disturbed times, or as Bede in his ecclesiastical history expresses it, quote, on account of their being so remote from the rest of the world, unquote, insular Irish, just what I was saying, way out, not only on the western fringes of Europe, beyond the borders of the Roman Empire, but not just one hop across the sea. Well, depending on what way you went, you could probably go from France to Ireland around Britain, but really 2 islands across, too far away for perhaps a lot of the Roman popes to be too troubled by in the early centuries of Christianity in Ireland. The Christians of Great Britain and Ireland knew nothing of this Reformation and continued to follow their old custom as handed down to them from the great and venerated apostles, St. Patrick, St. Columba, and others, which they steadfastly refused to change, notwithstanding the exhortations of St. Augustine and his successors in Canterbury. Of course, that is the St. Augustine who converted some of the British to Christianity, not St. Augustine of Hippo, who belonged to an earlier century. Irish monks, including the great missionary St. Columbanus, then in France, maintained their side with learning and spirit, but the adherents of the old custom grew fewer year by year. The monks of Iona were the last to yield, which they did about the year 716, and thus terminated a dispute which had lasted more than a century and a half, and which, though the question was comparatively unimportant, had given rise to more earnest controversy than any other during the early ages of the church in these countries. We'll keep going for a while more. The Welsh got in trouble too. You weren't alone. Exactly. I wonder, could Tom light the forge on a Sunday? I tell you, Tom is flat out. His forge is lit 7 days a week. I've no doubt about it, you know. Bishops. As the episcopate was not limited, and more especially as the dioceses were not territorially defined, bishops were much more numerous in those early times than subsequently. This was the case from the very first introduction of Christianity into Ireland. Nennius tells us that St. Patrick consecrated 465 bishops. 365 bishops, apparently one for every day of the year. And the first order of saints, including St. Patrick himself, was said to have consisted of 350 bishops. Wow, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. What did I say earlier? Both statements are probably exaggerated. No shit, Sherlock. But even so, they sufficiently indicate the general tendency. But it appears that this practice of consecrating a bishop without a diocese also existed in early ages on the continent, though it prevailed to a greater extent and for a longer time in Ireland than elsewhere. The Comorba or Corb, which I presume COMO would be lenited, wouldn't it? We're having a vowel either side. The Irish word Covorba or Covorva, I don't know how to pronounce that. Commonly Englished Corb, Coaorb, means an heir or successor in general, from the Irish prefix com, com, and orba, land or any inheritance. In connection with a church, this word comorba or corb was usually applied to the inheritor of a bishopric, abbacy, or other ecclesiastical dignity. Thus, the Archbishop of Armagh is the corb of St. Patrick, the Archbishop of Dublin, the corb of St. Lawrence O'Toole, the Abbot of Glendalough was the corb of St. Kevin, and the Pope is often called the corb of St. Peter. No poaching on a Sunday, says Mavanwi. Yeah, only the special sacramental wine. Éireannach. The lands belonging to a church or monastery were usually managed by an officer called an Éireannach or Herannach. And that's from the Irish Archinech, Airchinech, who, after deducting his own stipend, gave up the residue for the purposes intended, the support of the church or the relief of the poor, in order of precedence in order of priority. Supporting the church might be more important than feeding the poor, apparently. It was, although in fairness, doing one probably led to the other. It was generally understood to be the duty of the Erenach to keep the church clean and in proper repair, and the grounds in order. Sort of like we have, even in the modern church, there's a role called the sacristan, which, the sacristan would be involved in such things as, taking the host out of the tabernacle and preparing or bringing to the altar the bread and the wine for the Eucharist. But in many cases, the sacristan would also be sort of a caretaker of the church. They would have the keys to all the doors. They would probably be cleaning, vacuuming, washing where required, and making sure everything is spick and span. There were erenachs in connection with nearly all the monasteries and churches, mostly laymen, and that was certainly the case, and certainly is the case in the modern church, although the number of churches and certainly the number of sacristans has been dwindling steadily here in Ireland. I believe, could be mistaken, but I believe most or all of those sacristans today would be lay people. The lay erenachs were usually tonsured. Well, they don't do that today. This word, archenach, like covorba or comorba, was originally a lay term applied to a chief or leader. In Zeus 868-34, it glosses princeps, and in Cormac's glossary, it is correctly derived from heir, A-I-R, over, or noble, heir, over or noble, and kien, ahead. Will we leave? Have a look. What time is it? We'll go to the end of this chapter, and then we can start afresh. Learning in pagan times is coming up soon. The tonsure, this section is about the tonsure. The tonsure introduced by St. Patrick and used by the first order of saints was ab aure ad aurum, i.e. the hair was cut off the whole front of the head from ear to ear, while the back part was left untouched. That, of course, by today's standards would look very odd, and flowed down long, which fashion was also adopted by St. Columcille and by the second order of saints in general. This we learn from several authorities, among them the catalogue mentioned at page 317 supra, which says that the first and second orders of Irish saints had, quote, one tonsure from ear to ear, unquote, but that those of the third order had a variety of tonsures. Many attempts were made to induce the early Irish ecclesiastics to change their custom for the tonsura corona, or the coronal tonsure, also called St. Peter's, in which the hair was cut only from a circular space on the crown of the head, which meant they had a bald patch, whether they liked it or not. It was alleged as a reproach against the Irish that they had the tonsure of Simon Magus, but they held on to the custom taught them by their venerated apostles, as they retained their own time of celebrating Easter. And although Adovnon wished to introduce the coronal tonsure to Iona, the monks refused to make a change. At length, in 718, according to Chernoch's annals, 2 years after the adoption of the Roman time of celebrating Easter, and 15 after the death of Adovnon, the Roman tonsure was adopted in Iona, by which time it is to be presumed the tonsure from ear to ear had been abandoned everywhere in Ireland. And no, not quite last. Crush figil. Sometimes people prayed while holding the arms extended in front so as to form a cross. This was so well recognized a practice that it had a special name, crossfigil. The word figil, F-I-G-I-L-L, which is the Latin vigil, is commonly used in Irish in the sense of prayer. So that crossfigil means cross prayer. O'Clery, in his glossary, defines it as, quote, a prayer or vigil which one makes on his knees with his hands stretched out in the form of a cross, unquote. In the Irish life of St. Fechin, it is stated that Moses routed the Amalekites by praying with his hands extended in crush figgle. This practice is mentioned everywhere in the old ecclesiastical literature, and how early it began we may see from an Irish writer's remark on one of the Psalms in the Milan glosses, 8th century, that in prayer the eyes speak to God by being raised up to him, the knees and legs by kneeling, the body by prostration, and the hands by crush figgle. Eintheid, or union. The ancient Irish saints were in the habit of making a union, Irish Eintheid, with the lenition it would be pronounced Ainchi, Aentaid, with each other as a mark of close friendship and affection. This union is very often mentioned in the lives of the saints, but what it consisted in is not clear. No doubt it was a spiritual union of some kind, probably a solemn engagement that each should pray or celebrate Mass for the other or others at certain appointed times. When a saint had great reputation for holiness, many others of less eminence sought to bring about a, quote, union, unquote, with him. And this very last paragraph is called Kings Retiring to Monasteries. No circumstance is more indicative of the widespread deep religious feeling among the ancient Irish people than the number of kings who, late in life, abdicated and either retired to monasteries or went on pilgrimage, generally to Rome. The practice began early and became very general, of which there are so many records all over our literature, especially the annals, that it is unnecessary to refer to all individual instances. Yeah, this is going to be, this has been, it really, I hope you've all been enjoying Joyce's social history, as I have thoroughly, for many, many, many weeks now. In fact, if we didn't start on P.W. Joyce's Social History of Ireland earlier this year, we started it maybe even last year. I know we've been doing it for a while, and sometimes that gets put aside for other topics of discussion, which is absolutely fine. I'm just trying to find here. Social History of Ancient Ireland Part 1 was streamed 1 year ago, according to YouTube. So there you go. We've been at it on and off for a year. St. Feckin, did he appear in Father Ted? He probably did, yeah. Maybe it was put off the women. Yeah, a lot of mention of the men and not so much of the women. Can't even have hair between them and God, yeah. The tonsure, yeah. The top part, the part that's facing God, you know. When I was a kid, all the Catholic priests I met in our area of northeast England were Irish, as a lot of the missionary priests were in various parts of the world, you know. Yeah, absolutely. The office of sacristan rang bell, Inman tells us. I first saw a tonsure of Franciscans next to the Church of Santa Barbara at St. Anthony's. Communion was given. Yeah. I don't remember in my lifetime the Franciscans left Drogheda 20, maybe 25 or 30 years ago. As a child, I went to Mass in the Franciscan Church in Lawrence Street in Drogheda. It is now the Highlanes Gallery. It's now a municipal, it's an art gallery, a public art gallery that has many very, very interesting exhibitions, but it houses the municipal art collection of Drogheda. I'll just try. What I was going to say was, of course, the Franciscans wore the Franciscan robes, but I don't think any of them in my lifetime had the tonsure. Probably was that. Anybody know? But the Franciscans, was that done away with decades or centuries ago? Hang on a second. The Franciscan Friary Church closed for the last time in August of the year 2000. Wow. There you go. So 24 years ago. Yeah. What I'm saying is I don't remember there wouldn't have been that many Franciscan priests anywhere. They call them priests, friars. There might have been 2 or 3 attached to the Franciscan church in Drogheda, but I don't remember any of them ever having a tonsure, but certainly the robes were very distinctive, you know. Rabbit hole, says Joe Butler. Well, Live Irish Myths is one giant rabbit hole, really, isn't it? You know, and it's such fun. And I'm glad that you're so Auntie Joe and everyone else that you're so tolerant of those rabbit holes. Variety is the spice of life is one of my main mantras, and those rabbit holes can be deep and interesting. And there you have it. Magic. Many thanks as always, Anthony. Very interesting indeed. Yes. I definitely do find it interesting, much as I'm quite agnostic these days. I still find the history and development of the church in Ireland to be a fascinating subject. Whether we like it or not, the church had a very, very, very major influence in Irish history for the past 1,500 years, and a very deep and lasting influence on Irish mythology. That doesn't, of course, mean for a second that we gloss over the scandals and the crimes committed by the church in recent decades. Not at all. But I find the early church fascinating, and I think that the honest truth is, regardless of what your beliefs are now, and especially to the modern pagans, some of whom online seem to have a deep hatred for the church, the fact of the matter is, if most of us had existed in, say, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th century in Ireland, we probably would have ended up living in or participating in monastic life in some way, whether as a religious person or as a lay person. They were the towns and villages of their day. They were the centers of commerce and trade. They were the hubs of activity. Not necessarily that it was all about trade, but if you had a trade, that was a place where you were guaranteed to meet others. But I suspect that until the Vikings, I think there is something appealing about early monastic life in Ireland, and even those very early times before Whitby and before Rome really took control. There's a feeling that the Irish monasteries. I mean, I'm thinking about places like Monaster Boyce, which is probably the closest very old monastery to where I live here. I'm sure there were times when they were quite idyllic, but everything changed, of course. Nothing stays the same, as they say, Anyway, a happy birthday again to Alan and to Anne. Hope you enjoy the celebrations. Don't overdo it, of course. And if you're going to overdo it, make sure you have the cure tomorrow morning, hair of the dog, and all of that. Just to those newcomers, a reminder that there's lots more. If you've enjoyed this episode, there's lots more, and some of it is entirely about mythology and the Tuatha Dé Danann and Finn McCool and Cuchulainn. Some of our episodes are about archaeology. Some of them are about the early church and early medieval society. There's 292 previous episodes that you can enjoy. Search for those on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel, or just go into the live tab in that channel. We're on Facebook and Instagram and X and Threads, and even on TikTok, although I don't do much on TikTok because haven't quite mastered. I haven't quite worked out what TikTok is about, really, to be honest. Please do sign up for the newsletter, the email, the mailing list. And if you go there to the Mythical Ireland website, you'll see a pop-up that says Become a Mythical Ireland Insider. And you just literally put your email address in, click the arrow, and you'll get an email that will ask you to confirm. Twice weekly emails. Many of those are sort of longer read emails about various subjects relating to mythology and archaeology and astronomical alignments. So make sure to sign up for those, and please do consider, because this is most important, without this a lot of things don't happen, become a patron of Mythical Ireland at patreon.com. But please become a paying patron. There is an option to become a free patron, but that doesn't really benefit you or I, because I don't share very much. I certainly don't share anything that I don't share on social media with free patrons. But if you're a paying patron, you get early and exclusive access to photographs, articles, blog posts, videos, podcasts, news announcements, and even special offers. And that's generally stuff that's either never going to be shared on social media, or more often than not, stuff that will be shared with patrons first and foremost. So it's important to me, certainly, and to the whole Mythical Ireland project. Without the patrons, as I say, a lot of what I do wouldn't be possible. Anyway, thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope you've had a fantastic time. We live stream this series on Mondays. Today, if you missed the beginning of the episode, we delayed the live stream by a day because yesterday evening I was in the National Concert Hall celebrating the fact that the Mythological Murals project in Drogheda, led by Love Drogheda Bids and the Drogheda Arts Centre, had been nominated for a Business to Arts Award, and we had a nice evening. So returning next Monday evening at the usual time, that's 8 p.m. Irish time, that's 3 p.m. Eastern, and that's 12 noon Pacific. We hope to see you here. In the meantime, stay safe, keep well, and come here, delve into the Mythical Ireland website if you haven't done so. There's an enormous amount of information in there. That's mythicalireland.com. mythicalireland.ie will also take you to exactly the same place. And that is a deep rabbit hole. And if you intended to read everything that's on that website, it would take you probably several weeks, actually. So enjoy it. And in the meantime, as I say, don't forget that you can become a patron, and also don't forget to perhaps, if you're interested, invest in some of the work, like the books, like pre-order the calendar, which will be going to print in the next few weeks. Get yourself a t-shirt with the Mythical Ireland logo on it. If you're looking for a birthday present for someone, the Mythical Ireland gift card can be redeemed off books and calendars and tours on the Mythical Ireland website. So get yourself over there and spend a bit of time on it. Anyway, thanks everyone. Have a great one, and we'll see you all next week. All that remains for me to say at this point in the evening is Ichawa Kolosov Slán go fóil agus tó go bogé mo cairde go léir.